the Masonic influence.
All right. Hello and welcome, everybody. And thank you always for taking the time to be with us this evening and all others. Uh, Tonight will be the 85th episode of the Ask Me Anything series hosted here on YouTube. And I'm so grateful to have this chance and this opportunity to answer your inquiries and to not have to type up all of these answers in email. So, what a great blessing that is. And thank you to Joy for the idea behind all of this. It's been a great blessing for myself and for Gary Wayne and Dr. Joy Jeffries Pugh. I know it has saved all of us an immense amount of time just trying to answer your inquiries and to provide you guidance for those things which are intriguing to you with regard to whatever it may be, prophecy, the Bible, conspiracy, how it all comes together, the bigger picture, the great contest. We do already have a question from John in the chat room. Yes, Zen, if digital currency, crypto seems to be a part of the beast system where no person can buy or sell, I'm just wondering why you are so on board with crypto. Thank you. Really good question. And the answer is because it is a platform which can really offer individuals that put focus in this area and to really enable individuals to do like the banks have for years and years and years, really to become your own bank, to put your money to work for you and in a way that can be really life changing. For those of you that have been involved in crypto and that even if you're not doing more than just buying, dollar cost averaging, accumulating, you have reaped the benefits of being in the market. And the profitability is absolutely mind blowing. I mean, it's the only investment vehicle. And know that I am not a financial advisor. My opinion here is just that opinion. But in my experience of being part of this movement, um, I have benefited, and I have shown and spoken about to all of you in a manner as to what you could do to also benefit and to reap the rewards of this platform coming into existence. And that really we are still so far ahead of the game. It wasn't just a week ago that the ETF for Bitcoin was approved, and there was $4 billion in Bitcoin sold in the first day of trading. And so there's going to be a flood of money entering into the crypto markets. And like the tide, when high tide comes in, it elevates the water levels and lifts up all boats. In similarity, that is what is happening with crypto, and not just Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Solana, which are the three biggest that I feel will do well over what is the upcoming bull run. Um, and even though we are seeing a slight correction, now the trend is to buy the dips. And the crypto fear and greed indicator has brought the market back neutral. So we are really in a good position to watch the markets elevate in a way that may never happen again in our lifetimes. And there are things like airdrops happening where people just utilizing, especially like Solana and the Cosmos ecosystems, different blockchains because they're so new, just utilizing those DeFi platforms, the NFT projects, whatever it may be, that uh, people are being given free cryptocurrencies. And, so the benefit is even if you don't have a lot of money, you can really still affect a positive change that could really affect and benefit your future if you are smart about studying it and making it work for you. And if you are interested, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that, but if you are interested, and if you don't know and you want to know more, I do private consultations and that kind in that regard to help those of you, no matter where you may be, if you're just getting started, how to get started, or if you've been involved for a while and you are looking as far as indicators, trying to better understand the market. Um, which again, I am no expert, but I have been studying with the crypto banter people, and I am part of the crypto sniper school put out by Sheldon, who himself, he's self-made millionaire just from trading crypto over the past few bull markets. And so I'm just saying that it can really benefit people. And why let the banks use your money to make money? Why don't you put your own purchasing power to work and let it benefit you? And so, all right, let us continue. And if I see any other questions, I'll get to them. I am going to be trying to monitor chat. And so if you do have questions, go ahead and put them there. Okay. Yes, put your questions in caps. And just want to give a shout out. It's good to see you, Brick. True Seeker in his service, Roman, make stupid people famous, Flat Earth, Underground, Artful Misfit, everybody else. There was a follow up question from John. Let me take a look at that. He asked the best way to buy crypto without dealing with 5 different entities. I've heard of a personal wallet instead of stuff like Coinbase and others. Um, yeah, there are personal wallets like MetaMask and Phantom, and it depends on what blockchain you're going to be interacting with and dealing with. Um, because cryptos are particular, you have to send them and receive them on a certain wallet and a certain blockchain. And if you send them to the wrong one, they can easily get lost. And so that's why you have to really kind of study and get familiar with what you need to do, which that's been the hardest part of it. And for a lot of people that don't know what they're doing, it can be a problem. But I recommend, and I'll send out. I'm going to send out an email and start, this kind of crypto newsletter again. But start with Coinbase. It's the safest. They will hold custody for you. You don't have to have other wallets. All you have to do is hook up. You can start, with your email, start a Coinbase account. You can earn free cryptocurrency there, and you can dollar cost average in. So, and what I mean with dollar cost averaging is that you don't worry about the price. You just put, like, if you can afford to purchase $100 a month, just set it to purchase $100 a month. Bitcoin, Ethereum, or Solana. I have a personal preference for Solana right now, but I do think that Ethereum is poised to move because there is going to be an Ethereum ETF approved by May. And so right now the narrative is to move money out of some of the other alternative coins and also Bitcoin and to put it into the Ethereum layer 1 and layer 2 portions of the network. But again, if you are interested in learning more and wanting to know more, you can just reach out to me at my email address, zengarcia2010@gmail.com, and I'll try to help you as best I can. All right, let us continue. I try to give shout outs to everybody. Hello, Tammy. Uh, I appreciate all of you. Flat Earth Underground asked me how's my health. I'm doing pretty good. I'm actually sleeping now, and have had some help with that. And thank you, Lisa, and others for helping out, and also for praying for me. Thank you, Sherry Pepin. I appreciate you, sister. Brian asks, Will, and yes, for those of you, go ahead and put your questions. I will get to them. I am trying to go through the scroll. because there is a lot of interaction. Brian asks, will someone be allowed to access the Ark of the Covenant like Moshe? That's a really good question. And for those that may not know the history or do not understand the fullness of the story of the Ark of the Covenant, um, let me give you a bit of a background and a bit of a rundown on that, because it's my opinion that there are two arcs of the covenant right now. And that one of them, the one that had originally been built by Solomon and housed in the temple of Solomon, and that was called Lady Zion. And you can find out more about this in the Ethiopic manuscript called the Glory of Kings, the Kebra Nagas, which is one of my most favorite texts. It's an awesome read. We did it for the digital Readers Club. You can find all of those readings online under a playlist. But what happened is um, Solomon was visited by the Queen of Sheba. Makeda is her name. And she went there and was a virgin at the time. And Solomon had seduced her with one of his riddles, and she left with what was his firstborn son. And he was born, a time thereafter, and Solomon did not know anything about him. And his name was Menelik. He stayed in and around Sheba until he was of age to become king. And at that time, the nation Sheba had been run by queens, and they were a matriarchal system. But he wanted to go visit his father and to see, because he had heard that Solomon was the wisest man in all the land. And so he did exactly that. He went there, visited Solomon, and it was immediately seen that this was his son. And Solomon um, made an offering to his son and gave him as present all of the firstborn children of all of those people that were in council for him, and that played a role in helping him to run the country, the government, the religious, and the fullness of the nation of Israel. And he did that so that when Menelik returned home, he could in fact start up a form of government and a kingship in the same manner that reflected what he had witnessed in regard to his father's court. And so he did that. But the Holy Spirit had gone to him and told him to also take the Ark of the Covenant back to Ethiopia with him, that he was found to be worthy, and he was found to be wise, and that this was instructed. He was told to take the covenant with the ark with him. And so he did. And Solomon believed he had stole it and that his intent was malevolent, and he gave pursuit. He chased after Menelik, and he stopped him in his progress, and it was going to become a really bad scene. But then he realized that it was the will of the Father, and that the Holy Spirit had instructed Menelik to perform this pilfery. And so Solomon realized that there was nothing that he could do because the favor of the Most High had already left, and it had abandoned he and the nation. And so the Ark of the Covenant was taken down to Ethiopia, and the original is found there to this day. But Solomon made a pact with the rest of his people, and he decided not to tell anybody. They were going to make an exact copy and place it back into the Holy of Holies. And because only the high priest could go in there, it's not like anybody really even knew. And so they did make this other copy. And it was during the destruction of Solomon's temple, and uh, when Nebuchadnezzar went in and the Babylonians destroyed, the angels opened up the gates of Jerusalem and allowed the invasion to happen. But Jeroboam was instructed at that time to take the holy artifacts and the Ark of the Covenant and to go toward the western gate. And he never made it outside, but he got near the western gate, and the Most High told him to bring all the items and to put it right there and the earth opened up and swallowed them. And this is where in Israel, the place that's called Jeremiah's grotto is located, and this is the place that Ron Wyatt had discovered. It was also connected to where the Messiah had been crucified. And there's a passage in the first book of Adam and Eve that speaks about there's a prophecy given by the word of the Lord to Adam that on the day that, the Genesis 3:15, that whole prophecy of the seed of the woman crushing the head of the serpent seed at the same time it nips at his heel, this would be fulfilled on that day. And there was a crack that went all the way from the cross to where the Ark of the Covenant was located beneath where Christ had been crucified, and his blood was carried through that crack and found its way to the Ark of the Covenant. And that blood was discovered, it was identified, it was tested, and it was found to be 24 chromosomes, 23 from a female earthly mother and one from a supernatural heavenly father, and that the blood was still living. And this, of course, is the blood that atones for the sins of the world and of which we find life through, even in this day and age. And so this one is located still in Jeremiah's grotto. It was said that the Israelites had tried to remove it and were supernaturally struck down. But Ron Wyatt was told that there would be a time later where these items would come to perusement and that they would confirm the inerrancy of the gospel and the supernatural aspect of the scriptures and of those things that had occurred previously. We are almost to first break, so I'll get to this question by Sassy. Can you explain how Lot's wife turned to stone? I remember you telling us there was more to the story. I just can't remember. Yes, that's another really good question, and I will answer it in full when we return from break.
As a bookstore for truth seekers, it's our goal to make ancient manuscripts which were once held captive by secretive institutions available for public consideration. In our generation, where wisdom has increased as Daniel the prophet foretold, we have access to many of the testimonies our early church brethren were persecuted for preserving. After being hidden for centuries, these manuscripts have been leaked from various sources throughout the earth, and it's our goal to gather these sources into printable form to make available for all who seek the ancient way. If you're looking to deepen your studies of the biblical narrative, find these ancient manuscripts and more at sacredwordpublishing.com. Your partnership with Sacred Word Publishing goes further than the publishing of ancient manuscripts and weekly video content.
You also make a huge impact across the earth in orphanages in Myanmar, India, Uganda, and Kenya.
Your support is crucial for the development of the ecclesia of real truth seekers.
We thank you for joining us in hosting Secrets Revealed, Momentary Zen, the Digital Readers Club, Ask Me Anything series, and other shows that have helped lead so many to the truth of salvation.
To become even more involved, please visit patreon.com/sacredwordpublishing, where you can partake in exclusive, interactive, patron-only content and help us continue shining the light of love in this darkened world.
Okay, welcome back, everybody. And so, Sassy had a question, and I will be asking a question at the top of the next break, and we'll give out some books. Can you explain how Lot's wife turned to stone? I remember you telling us there was more to the story, but I can't remember. Yes. So I'm going to go into this with a little bit more detail. And I'm going to tell you where you can read for yourself to get further information about the details of which I'm going to expound upon. And the story you can find in the Legends of the Jews, the writings of Abraham, in the Targum, the Aramaic Palestinian Targum, and also the Perkti Rabbi Eleazar. And so, in the story, in the canonical material, we are told of how the angels come to visit Lot. And they go to Abraham first, and Abraham is instructed on how they're going to bring judgment against these 5 cities in the plain of Shinar, of which Sodom and Gomorrah were 2. And Lot was living there in Sodom with the giants and the other hybrids that came about from Ham seeing the nakedness of his father, the Canaanites, his son Canaan, that was a result of his seeing the nakedness of his mother, who was Nama. Ham uh, was the one that had seduced his mother, which Nama was his full blood mother. And the result of that was a child that was predominantly serpent seed. And this was how the seed of Cain was allowed continuance through the flood. But what we are not told about the story, and when you read these other materials which I just referenced, you find out that it was the angel of the Lord, which was Yahushua, the Word, together with Gabriel and Michael, that had gone to see Abraham and to instruct him on what was to happen. And he had told them about how these sodomites were, in that they would harass anybody that traveled through their town. Everybody was forbidden to give aid to any of these travelers. They would steal their merchandise and also allow them to starve and dehydrate, and also to be sexually abused by not just one or two, high officials, but the entire town, the entire city would come out and engage in abomination um, and sexually engage these individuals, and just destroy them. Um, and so that's why when Lot had taken in these angels and asked them to come to his house, he was breaking a big rule to not harbor, to not give aid, to not take in any travelers, to not wash their feet, not provide them food or water or any kind of shelter. That was a big no-no. And so his wife, who was part of the elders of the city, when Lot took in these angels, she went immediately out and she told Lot that she had to go out to get salt. And so she reported him. And when she reported him, that's when the men of the town, all of the people that wanted to harm and to sexually abuse these angels, they went to Lot's. And we're told that Lot then offered his daughters uh, for their satisfaction, that if they would just leave the angels alone. But that's not the truth of the story. The truth of the story is that once Lot's wife goes out and this crowd comes back, they know exactly where the angels are. They come down to where Lot is harboring them, and they threaten Lot. They tell him that if you don't open the door and let us in and let us have our way with your guests, then we're going to do this to your two young virgin daughters. And, Lot in the story actually stands up for his daughters. He's not offering them for their sexual pleasure, but he's trying to protect them. And the angels, basically tell them, don't worry, Lot. This is why we're here, because of these people and their depravity, we're going to destroy them. And so, um, the one of the daughters was already living with another man there who was older. She was already married, one of his older daughters. And then the two youngest were living with him. And they told him to round up your people and to leave, that you only have a short time, and that you have to do it fast because they were wanting to destroy the city. And so Lot, gathered what family would listen to him, and he began to leave. And he took his two youngest daughters, his eldest daughter and her husband. They stayed in the town. His wife left reluctantly, but kept looking back because all of her family ties and connections were in that city. And so, looking back, and because you reap what you sow, and because she had lied to Lot um, in order to tell on him, and had betrayed him, and did so by saying that she was going out for salt, that this was the reason why she was turned into a pillar of salt. And so that's the oh, thank you, Sassy. She says, I'm so glad you're back for a second night in a row. And I do appreciate everybody praying for me because, my voice is stronger. I have been feeling better. Yes, Brick. Right on. 444 every day. Let us always remember and honor our good brother, Rob Skiba. Oh, Malev. Good to see you, brother. And Stephanie. Always nice to have some of you here because you are so kind and you've been such great supporters of our ministry. Okay, next question from Danny. In your opinion, who and where are most of the Israelites today? It is my opinion that a large majority of the Israelites, the true Israelites, that they are part of the native indigenous peoples, the Native Americans, native other indigenous peoples all over the world. And I do believe that they had traveled even to America in ancient times. And that um, there's the story of the last Native American here in the Americas, and how they brought a linguistics person to try to speak to this individual, and they found out that he spoke Hebrew and he was able to communicate. And that the native peoples are without a doubt part of the lost tribes. And so um I wish I could remember the name of the book. It's something Injury Speaks or something of that nature. And it's about the story of how they discovered this. But I would also recommend Chief Joseph Riverwind. I believe that's his full name, but he wrote a book called That's What the Old Ones Say. And he has also come to the discernment that the native peoples were instructed in the ancient uh, rituals and worship of the Israelites, in that they also revered the Father, the Holy Spirit, the Mother, and the Son. And yes, they did know about the sun dance was not to the sun in the sky, but actually to the Son of the Father, the Messiah. And that part of their ghost dance and part of their restoring their nation back to their spirituality was in embracing these ancient teachings. And so that's another really cool part of the story. And then I'll mention one other portion, and it has to do with a book called He Walked the Americas. And this book was published by the daughter of a anthropologist who, having befriended the native peoples across America, he was familiar with their languages, their traditions. He had been invited in to make copies of their stories, to pass them down. But the most incredible thing that he brought forth in his work was about how Yahushua, Christ, they called him the Pale Healer, how he had walked across the Americas and had met with the tribes, the native tribes, and that the native tribes had been separated in the same way as the Israelites in ancient times, where you have the seed of the woman and the seed of the serpent being at enmity. That in similarity, there was a portion of the native peoples that worshiped the feathered serpent, and then there was a portion that worshiped, the great spirit, the everything that was created by the Most High. And that, again, there is a motherly earth symbolism uh, they called the Son grandfather, that all the spirits of the world were part of the Most High, and that they were all connected, and everything was sacred, everything was alive, everything was considered to be part of the fabric of the Creator, and that's what made it part of the creation. So I think the true Israelites are still spread all across the world. Okay, let's see. Make stupid people famous. Will Elijah use the rod of wonder to split waters above the firmament, to bring forth the harvest of the wheat? Eliah tears and the new Jerusalem, where he will hand it over to Yahushua. I'm not positive. And the reason I say that is because in the story, and as I've covered it in the Vestures of Light and the Rod of Wonder book, that story ends, and the Rod of Wonder and the Garments of Power, they return with Messiah in Revelation 19. But there's not a um, there's not any other part of the story where I see Elijah and Enoch, who are the two witnesses of Revelation 11. And there are numerous passages, numerous texts, ancient manuscripts, and sources which tell us that Enoch and Elijah will return at the end of days. They will be murdered in the streets of Jerusalem, and for 3.5 days, their bodies will lay in the streets. All the people that wander after the beast, they will all celebrate, calling each other, high-fiving at the decimation of these two witnesses. Um, but when they are resurrected and they are brought back to life, and they indicate that the Antichrist is he that which is ruling over the world and over the beast system at that time, there's no story which speaks about Elijah having the rod of wonder and his using it to split the waters above the firmament. So all of that would be speculation. But without a doubt, in Revelation 19:13, I believe it is, it speaks about the return of Messiah and how he would be wielding the rod, a rod of iron to rule over the nations, and how he will be wearing the vesture dipped in blood, which is simply the coat of many colors, which had been passed down, stolen by Ham, and then given to Cush, and then Cush to Nimrod. Nimrod was murdered by Esau. Esau took the staff and the rod back from him. Actually, just the garments of power, the vestures of life, because the rod was still in the possession of his father and had been given over to Jacob. And so that story, I know without a doubt, is connected to those items that were passed down. And if you want to know more, and if you want to learn more about this particular topic and this story, the the vestures of light, and the rod of wonder. And who knows, maybe I will give out. Sherry Papin, I'll give out one of those books, but Sherry says, lovely, lovely story about Solomon and the Queen of Sheba. It is a beautiful, beautiful tale. And I, you know, people can check it out. Yeah, it is a beautiful, beautiful story. Just like the story of Joseph and the Senate. Wow, what a love story that one is. All right. Okay, Kingdom Truthers. Shalom, everybody. Where is this Solomon story from? I never heard of this before. As I made mention, you can find it in a book called The Kebra Nagast. Kebra space capital Nagast, which simply means the glory of kings. And it's about the bloodline rule that came up in Ethiopia and how that was connected to the Queen of Sheba bearing the firstborn son of Solomon, Menelik, and how he visited his father and then we returned. Back to Ethiopia with the ark. All right. We understand. Lisa and Noble, enjoy the work on the house. All right. Oh, good. Thank you, Adrian from Oz. She says that the calendar looks good and that we have Shabbat coming up on Thursday. I tried to take my time with it as much as I could. I did not want to make a mistake like we did last time. Kingdom Truther, where can we read the story of Solomon's firstborn son? Sounds interesting. It is absolutely interesting, mind blowing, and you can read it in the Kebra Nagas. All right. Adam asks, didn't Ron Wyatt find the ark? How can it be in Ethiopia? You must have came in after my explanation, but basically I told you about two arks. The first one was, as I said, when Menelik went to go visit his father Solomon, the Holy Spirit had instructed him to take the ark with him back to Ethiopia because the Ethiopians would become part of the Christian peoples. And they have been a very ancient now empire of Christian peoples, and they follow the law, the Torah, in the way that Israel was supposed to. And so that ark being taken to Ethiopia, Solomon agreed with his advisors to recreate another ark and to place it into the Holy of Holies, and that this was a copy. It was the second ark, and it was this ark that was taken by Jeremiah from the temple, and the earth swallowed it up and kept it and placed it where Jeremiah's grotto is. And this is where Ron Wyatt discovered the Ark of the Covenant before his passing. And so, yeah, listen to the earlier part of the show to get the rest of the story. All right, we are almost at break. And so we'll return in about 3 minutes, and then I'll pick up the other questions, and I'll also think about a question to ask, and we'll give away a couple of books. All right, we'll be right back, everyone.
Hi, my name is Ella, and I'm 10 years old. I'm one of the millions of children born to parents suffering from the sheeple virus. Symptoms include the inability to think for oneself, the attention span of a goldfish, and a strong belief in government and the mainstream media. It is estimated that 1 out of every 2 children are being raised by parents infected with the sheeple virus. But there is a cure. For as little as 19 cents per day, you can become a TFR supporter and help children like me get their daily dose of truth. Together, we will make sure every child has protection from deception.
Who would have thought this could have happened? I'll tell you, here's the story. If it's bad, it'll be front page news in the newspapers. If it's great, they won't even cover it. Now, if it's bad, I tell you, it's fake.
It's sucking from me, though, so it must be true.
If it's good, I say.
As a bookstore for truth seekers, it's our goal to make ancient manuscripts which were once held captive by secretive institutions available for public consideration. In our generation, where wisdom has increased as Daniel the prophet foretold, we have access to many of the testimonies our early church brethren were persecuted for preserving. After being hidden for centuries, these manuscripts have been leaked from various sources throughout the earth, and it's our goal to gather these sources into printable form to make available for all who seek the ancient way. If you're looking to deepen your studies of the biblical narrative, find these ancient manuscripts and more at sacredwordpublishing.com. Your partnership with Sacred Word Publishing goes further than the publishing of ancient manuscripts and weekly video content.
You also make a huge impact across the earth in orphanages in Myanmar, India, Uganda, and Kenya.
Your support is crucial for the development of the ecclesia of real truth seekers.
We thank you for joining us in hosting Secrets Revealed, Momentary Zen, the Digital Readers Club, Ask Me Anything series, and other shows that have helped lead so many to the truth of salvation.
To become even more involved, please visit patreon.com/sacredwordpublishing, where you can partake in exclusive, interactive, patron-only content and help us continue shining the light of love in this darkened world.
All right. Welcome back, everybody. Let me check the chat again. I'll try to find out where I am in the scroll. It's hard trying to keep up with everything. Things are moving so fast. Hopefully I'll... Okay, I think we're just going to start here. Okay, let me think of a question that I want to ask y'all. And then what I'm going to do is, all right, what's a good question? What is a good question? Something simple. Okay, yeah, okay, this is the question. And I would like the people that answer this question to well, I'll look in the chat room. I just don't want to mess up the questions that you are asking me. So I'm going to have you email it to me. That way I don't have to check the scroll and then go back to try to find my place with the questions and try to catch up, and because I am trying to get all of you in the as far as when you ask them. And because it keeps scrolling, there's so much good interactions going on. It's tough to keep up with. So I'm going to just pick up with the next question that I see. But the question that I want you to answer is, when was and how was the book of Enoch rediscovered? And just tell me who the person was and what year that rediscovery took place. And email it to me in the first, let's do two. I'll give out one the Keber Nagas and one of the Vesters of Light. So the first two people to email me with the correct answer, send me your address as well. My email address is zengarcia2010@gmail.com. Send me the correct answer and I will announce it on the next show, and I will send those books out to you promptly. And also, if you would, please do give us a thumbs up on the video and, subscribe, click the little bell. Even though this platform, they are really messing with us. We're having videos deleted every day, and so I'm gonna have to do something to move over the information. All right, so the question that is before me is from Debbie. She says, "Sorry, children of Eve, as she was the mother of all the living, right?" Okay, so the question I'm gonna assume is that is Eve the mother of all the living? And yes, she is. That's what Adam called her. Her name, Eve, in the English is in the Hebrew, Hava, Chava. And Hava means life giver. And it's only women that have the ability to bring forth children. And only a woman, which is a wombed man, for those that are confused with gender and how to identify gender. A woman is somebody that can carry a child, bring it to term, and birth it. A man is somebody that can't. A man does not have a womb, cannot carry a child. And so Eve, yes, she was the mother of all the living. She gave birth to the seed of the serpent, who was Cain. He was the firstborn of the wicked one, as it tells us in 1 John chapter 3, verse 12. Of the wicked one, that word of meaning um, child of, son of, descendant of. And so it has everything to do with descendants. You are welcome, Sassy. Love you too, sister Stephanie. Appreciate you very much. All right. Love you as well, Valerie, and everybody else in the chat. I appreciate all of you so very much. Love you too, Julio. Brothers, and thank you so much for your teaching to us, the Church of Jesus Christ. Yes, we are a family. We are a fellowship in Christ. Okay, Dale asks, do you believe we get the appearance of clowns from the Nephilim? That's I've never really investigated that or looked into it, but I can see how clowns and the angels, just being sadistic, and how some of these clowns, especially that they depict in all these horror movies, there's something sick and twisted about that. And now there are also, the appearance of clowns who have sadistic behaviors and intent and are trying to harm other. They're being found just in the middle of the woods. There's some really weird things going on in the world, and clowns are definitely part of that which is happening. And so even though I haven't researched it, it's my opinion that there would be connection. But I am going to look into that. All right. Sherry says Chief Joseph Riverwind and his wife Lauren have many interesting stories about the Native American heritage and history. Yes. Yes, they do. Okay. I think I'm catching up here. Dayton says that they went to Israel and sang in their tongue with some of the other Israelis. Uh, Joshua Aaron, I believe, was one of them. Wow, that's very interesting. Zarin Yellow Eagle says, I did 8 years of Sundance at Rosebud. Yeah, the description of the Sundance in the, that's what the old ones say. it tells a story about how, was it Crazy Horse or one of the elders, I forget exactly which one, but that they were giving smallpox on the blankets and bundles of clothes, and this was, decimating the native peoples that did not have immunity for this sort of thing. And so one of the elders was instructed to do the sun dance to receive the instruction on how to heal his people. And he describes that the Son of God, Yahushua, had come to him and then told him to heal. And I believe he said to heal in his name, if that was correct. It's been a little while since I've read that book, but it is really good. Okay, Shay asks, where did the offspring of the Nephilim get Nephesh? We know that men pre-existed in the loins of God before their birth, and that all animals have an appointed spirit. Yes, that is correct. But in similarity, before the rebellion of the angels, before iniquity was found within Lucifer, before the war in heaven, all of us had been created, and that we were all spiritual entities. We had pre-existed with the Father and the Son before the foundations of the world, before even the light of the world, Yahushua, was called forth when the Father said, "Light be." Before all this happened, before the world became visible and was seen in its extreme from one length to the other, we pre-existed with the sons of God, and there was not yet a rebellion. There was not yet um, a gathering and an insurgency. And so even the Nephilim are sons of God, and they have spirits. However, the involvement of the Nephilim with the children, the daughters of Cain, brought forth a race of giants. And these particular, the daughters of Cain were already hybrid. They were mixed. They were already, from what was Cain, who was a child of the wicked one, and he was um, a result of the beguilement of Eve by the serpent. And so all of the angels had what we call or reference nefesh, which is the spirit. It is the immortal aspect of us that goes on, that is not connected to the flesh. It's the dreaming aspect of who we are that goes on to dreams, that's not tied to our bodies, but by the silver cord. And when that is cut, our bodies go to the dust, and our spirits go on to be with the Lord. However, the giants, the hybrid, these unnatural and unholy creations, because they were not created by the Most High, they were not established by the Elohim. They were not natural creatures that were formed and created from the Creator, but they came about as an interdiction of the sons of God with the daughters of Cain. Because of that, the giants have no part in salvation. And they became what is an aspect of Legion. And Legion became the powers, the principalities, the rulers of darkness, and wickedness in high places when they rebelled against their creator and when they tried to overthrow Yahushua and cast him out of his dominion. For that, they were banished to the earth. They were placed under the authority of death. This took place before the fall of humanity on the sixth day and before their banishment to the wilderness of the earth after the first Sabbath. And so they do have spirits, even though their spirits are not going to be part of salvation. The giants also have spirits, but they are to be wicked spirits. And their spirits are to long for bodies to possess because they are going to be destroyed. In my opinion, the second death, when it tells us about the second death, that is when the destruction of the evil ones will take place. Before then, they're just held, they're contained, they're kept in either the place of promise or the place of perdition, condemnation. All right, great question. Shay asked, did the Most High create these souls before the fall? Yes. These were created before the fall, even before the fall of the angels, and even before the fall of man. All the spirits of all the angels, all the elements, all of humanity, all of the creatures, all of everything, the wind, snow, rain, all of these are spirits, the stars. Everything was created on the first day when God created the heavens and the earth, and it was found to be good. And then, the light of the world was introduced to the angels. Lucifer decided to rebel. He tempted 1/3 of them. They went to war against the Most High. They were cast down, cast out, banished under the firmament, placed into this time-space dimensionality. Dell says the firmament will be rolled away like a scroll. That is absolutely correct. We see this in Revelation 19, also in Revelation 20, how New Jerusalem will descend out of the heavens, and that the scroll will roll up, the firmament will roll up like a scroll in order to let New Jerusalem come out of the heavens down here to the earth. And that it will be in New Jerusalem, God willing, that I pray all of us are numbered with the elect and allowed to enter therein for the millennial reign and the millennial rest. Sarah asks, why would Lot stay and live in such an evil city? That's a great question. And it's because he and Abraham had decided to split their descendants, the people that were connected to them. Lot went one way and ended up living in Sodom, and Abraham went the other way. And the giants were predominant at that time. It tells us in the second book of Baruch that 409,000 giants were destroyed by the flood of Noah's day. And so you can read that for yourself. It's I believe it's the Greek version. 409,000 giants. One of them mentions 109,000 giants. But regardless, the Lost Book of King Og of Bashan, this book makes mention of 100,000 giant war And this was right before the flood, while the rains were coming down. And so that's a very interesting read. Also, I'm gonna repost, because we had the shows that Gary and I did about the Lost Book of King Og. They were banned, and all of them had, hundreds of thousands of views on them. They were going viral, but they deleted them. But I do have copies of them somewhere. I'll just have to repost them on some platform. Oh, good. Make Stupid People Famous says, thanks for answering. I'm on chapter 17 of the book. All right. Sassy, what place? You, you said Zarin Yellow Eagle. I still don't know where this place is. Brick said South Dakota. So, oh, Rosebud, where he did the Sundance. Okay. Okay. Dale asks, why is death called sleep in the Holy Bible, even by Jesus Christ? Well, death for the body is sleep. Because the body returns dust to dust, ashes to ashes. It returns back to the ground from whence it was taken. And so it is sleep for the body. But the spirit goes on to be with the Lord. And we go on to be either in the place of condemnation or the place of uh, New Jerusalem, where the righteous are living and thriving now. And remember that even after the resurrection of Christ, that he had went down into Sheol and freed Adam and his descendants, taking them back up into paradise, New Jerusalem, above the firmament. And it was there that Michael baptized them and allowed them to enter into New Jerusalem. And when they went in, they found the thief on the cross that told them the story about how Christ had told him, this day you will be with me in paradise. And that is exactly what occurred. And then being restored back to paradise, we have Adam and his descendants also there. Eve was gathering and guiding the women. And when they entered into the city, they came across Enoch and Elijah, who told them that they were going to be the two witnesses of Revelation 11, and that it would be at that time that they would, that they would succumb to death and then be resurrected to life. And so, but we were reading the Legends of the Jews in our DRC. And it's interesting, there's a part of the story called the soul of Adam, I think, or the soul of man. And it goes into that exact same tale. It speaks about how Adam, when he died, his spirit was taken up, and that he was shown paradise, and where he would stay, but that he would have to stay 5.5 days in and on the earth before Christ being born would descend down into Sheol and free him. And so that's the story that we get in the Gospel of Nicodemus. But if you want to get more, understand more about what happens to the righteous and the wicked at the point of death, read the Vision of Paul, chapter 12 through 29. And it will tell you there in great detail as to what happens to somebody when they die. Because again, the body, yes, it returns to the ashes and the dust, but the spirit goes on to be with the Lord. And that's where we are warned. When we're in the womb of our mother, we're told to do righteousness and to do goodness, random acts of kindness for kindness' sake. All right, we'll be right back for final segment.
It's not the amount that counts. It's the philosophy that executes your plan that counts. If a child has $1, what should he do with it? It's very important. It's going to determine the rest of his life, what he does with $1. You say, well, it's just a child and it's just $1. We call that massive errors in judgment. If a child is allowed to spend the whole dollar and they don't have the sense of where that could take them, we call that the greatest disservice to a child. Not to explain to them the journey and the road you select when you spend the whole dollar. So if a child wants to spend the whole dollar, you say, no, you can't spend the whole dollar. Child says, why not? Say, well, let me show you why not. And you take them to the other side of town and say, would you like to live here? Here's where the people live that spend all they make. Here's where they live. There's nothing better than visual to illustrate to a child. Show them the tragic circumstances. If you spend all you make, if you spend all you've got, and kids will come home with their big wide eyes. Say, would you like to live here? Would you like to live like this? Kid says, no, I wouldn't want to live here. Then you can't spend the whole dollar.
The reviews for
As a bookstore for truth seekers, it's our goal to make ancient manuscripts which were once held captive by secretive institutions available for public consideration. In our generation, where wisdom has increased, as Daniel the prophet foretold, we have access to many of the testimonies our early church brethren were persecuted for preserving. After being hidden for centuries, these manuscripts have been leaked from various sources throughout the earth, and it's our goal to gather these sources into printable form to make available for all who seek the ancient way. If you're looking to deepen your studies of the biblical narrative, find these ancient manuscripts and more at sacredwordpublishing.com.
Sons are the angels of God, looked upon the daughters of men and found them fair, and took them wives, and their sons became among great men of renown. So they have been mixing with us on a genetic level since the time of Enoch and Ezekiel's will.
If only my return been freaked by the sun, moon, and stars in a mansion, there's got to be planets like ours. Don't conceive of a face on the surface of Mars, so in need of a meaning and purpose. Indeed, they believe that they sight beyond odds, or that maybe with time we'll do right and live on, and eventually reach what they seek, and then solve all the problems of man. But they really don't know that they know the works of our hands, but just filthy bricks. We travel the lands, standing up on these my lamps, and within are much of the flakes of my imagination. God's beginning in Christ.
All right, welcome back, everybody, to final segment. The show goes by so very quickly. Will Hammond asks question about the calendar. In Jubilees chapter 6, verse 32, and Enoch chapter 72, verse 32, it says that the year should be 364 days only. I've been seeking many calendars that are correct. It can only be 364 days only. I want to share. Well, Will, you're only talking about half of the calendar there. And I went through a very extensive revealing of this topic in my 9th book, The Flat Earth as Key to Decrypt the Book of Enoch. And even the Book of Jubilees speaks about a calendar that um, recognizes the new moon, and also, yes, a 364-day solar year. But if you read the Book of Enoch very carefully, the book on the courses of the heavenly luminaries, you see that there are two calendars described. And not only two calendars, one based on the movements of the great luminary, which is the sun, but also a calendar which is a 354-day lunar calendar that's based on the movements of the moon. And he also speaks about how these two calendars come together in intercalation, meaning that the way that you realign these two calendars and the way that they play out in the heavens is by adding a 13th month every third year or so, according to the metatonic cycle. And the true calendar incorporates not only the motions of the sun and the moon, but also includes and calculates the motions of the planets as well as the Mazzaroth. And so these, in fact, the motions of the Mazzaroth and how the sun goes through one of the signs of the zodiac every 2,000 some years or so, that this is called the Great Year. And it's a larger part of what is a bigger cycle of the heavenly movements and motions that we see in the heavens. And so the 364-day solar calendar, which is 12 months of 30 days, and then the 4 intercalated as far as the equinoxes and the solstices. Yeah, that is a big part of understanding when these solar years begin and how the sun moves back and forth between the Tropic of Capricorn and the Tropic of Cancer. I explain all of that in the Flat Earth as Key to Decrypt the Book of Enoch. But anybody that tries to separate the solar calendar from the lunar calendar, you're only paying attention to what are half of the motions in the heaven. Not even half, because you're excluding the Mazzaroth and you're excluding all of the planets, which those movements also are included in the understanding of what the heavens are telling us. And also where the luminaries are located at the time of a person's birth. You look at all of them because they all have influence on our lives. And so you have to include if you're trying to truly understand the heavenly clockwork system, you have to incorporate all of those motions, not just the solar. And for those that only go by the Qumran, the uh, the the calendar revealed in the Qumran works, that was a priestly calendar, and it was for determining which family would rule over the Holy of Holies from that Levite line. And then they would switch out every month. That was what that calendar was to determine. But the moon determines the beginning of the months and also the um, the time of the feasts. And it's always that the 15th of Nisan and the 15th of Tishri, the first and the seventh months, the 15th is always on a full moon. And the quote from the Targum about the two great lights, it tells us, it says this: "And the Lord said, let there be lights in the expanse of the heavens to distinguish between the day and the night, and let them be for signs and for festal times, and for the numbering by them the account of days, and for the sanctifying the beginning of the months, and the beginning of the years, the passing away of months, and the passing away of years, the revolutions of the sun, the birth of the moon, and the revolvings of the seasons." And so, again, if you want to understand, because the sun sets the seasons, and the equinoxes are the beginning of the seasons, as well as the solstices, the beginnings of summer and winter. And so, yes, the 364-day calendar, the solar calendar, is an integral and very important part of the heavenly clockwork system. But it's not the full story. You have to know how the 354-day lunar calendar determines the beginning of the months, as it says in this passage, and also the beginning and the passing away of months, and the beginning of the feast times. So, again, and it tells us in Isaiah chapter 66, just as it does in the book of Jubilees, that, Noah had counted and set uh, some of the stuff that he'd done according to the new moon. So it tells you in Jubilees that the new moon is an integral part of the calendar system. And it tells us this at the millennial reign, that, and it shall be from new moon to new moon, or Kadesh to Kadesh, and from Shabbat to Shabbat, all mankind will come to bow down before me, says the Lord. And it tells us that in the book of Enoch, as well as the Chronicles of Jeremiah, that on the first night of the new month, one part is visible, meaning that the one part of the waxing crescent of the moon is visible. On the second night, a second portion is visible, and so on until the middle of the month, when it is full moon. From the middle of the month onwards, these two clouds turn themselves eastward, and that part of the moon which appeared first is the first to be covered by the two clouds. On the first night, one part; on the second night, a second part, until the end of the month, when it is entirely covered and void of light. There's so many passages, so many quotes that I could go to and explain all this. But even, I'll just read a short passage from the book of Enoch. Enoch chapter 72, verse 5 tells us that at that time it appears and becomes to you the beginning of the month. What appears? The moon. So the moon determines the beginning of the month? That is correct. And not only does the moon determine the beginning of the month, but the 4 phases that follow the waxing crescent determine the Shabbats, the 7-day portions. That's why the moon, its phases, occur in 7-day cycles. It's not random. It's not just, some circumstantial evidence. The moon was created perfect in its mannerisms, in its behaviors, in its characteristics to tell us when the beginning of the months are and when the Sabbaths, the Shabbats happen. They align with the first quarter, the full moon, the third quarter, and the lunar conjunctive moon. Those are the 4 Sabbaths of every lunar month. Every month has 4 Sabbaths and 1 waxing crescent appearance. Enoch 72:6. Half of it is extent 7 portions, 1/2, and the whole of its orb is void of light, except a 7th portion out of the 14 of its light. And in a day it receives a 7th portion, or half that portion, of its light. Its light is by sevens, by 1 portion and by a half a portion. It sets with the sun. And when the sun rises, the moon rises with it, receiving half a portion of light. On that night, when it commences its period previous to the day of the month, the moon sets with the sun. And on that night, it is dark in its 14 portions, that is in each half. But it rises on that day with 1/7 portion precisely, meaning one very thin sliver, 1/7 portion. And its progress, it declines from the rising of the sun. So when it reaches waxing crescent, it begins to gather its light until it is full, and then it is exactly opposite. When the sun is rising, the full moon is setting. When the sun sets, the full moon rises. And so again, here's another verse that confirms this. It is the moon that marks the changing seasons, governing the times their everlasting sign. From the moon comes the sign for the festal days, a light that wanes when it completes its course. The new moon, as its name suggests, renews itself. How marvelous it is in this charge, a beacon to the hosts on high, shining in the vault of the heavens. So the new moon occurs when the waxing crescent, when it is renewing, repairing, and rebuilding itself. I could really go on forever on this, but I'm not going to. We'll stop right there. But again, I've done entire shows explaining the true calendar and how you have to incorporate the sun, the moon, the stars, and the Mazzaroth into those calculations to really understand what the scriptures are describing and telling us. All right, let's go back to the chat. Thank you, Shay. We greatly appreciate you as well. Sherry, thank you for that answer then about the different types of the calendars. You're very welcome. And I think it's very important to know. And I don't claim to know everything, and the calendar is still something that I'm, getting better with. But certainly, I think if you are interested and wanting to know more about the calendar, we just released the new Enoch calendar for this Gregorian year. And in that calendar, it converts all the months of the Gregorian year into what are, the appearance of the waxing crescents, the Sabbaths according to the first full third quarter and lunar conjunctive moons. So it helps you to keep up with how to determine Kadesh and also Shabbat, and how to make sense of what is being described in the book of Enoch on the book of the courses of the heavenly luminaries. And also, we have Troy from the creationcalendar.com. His 2 books are going to be released. I just got the final proof. And so, even though they've been, partially available, we are just wait because there's a couple differences, and we'll be releasing all those very soon as well. And his books are, I think he did a most excellent job. And he's writing as if he's trying to determine this truth in a court of law. So it's very well done. All right, I have caught up. Welcome, Christine Salvatore, and thank you for joining us, and thank you for ordering, books from us as well. I see in the chat that the Nightbot has released that there is a coupon. Okay, there's a couple more questions here too. That you can get a 24% discount throughout January just by using the promo code Greg24 at sacredwordpublishing.com. And so I don't know if it'll be good when you actually hear this show, but you can try it. And the best way to do and to get information on the coupons and the discounts that we're running is to just go to sacredwordpublishing.com and join the newsletter. And Justin sends out something every month. I'm going to be better about writing articles for that. I will this month write about the release of the calendar. But yes, and that, the calendar is such an important issue, I believe, and it's one that people have to examine and determine for themselves. But again, I take the book of Enoch as my source of inspiration, as he was shown the movements of both the great luminary, the lesser luminary, the planets, the wandering stars, and the Mazzaroth, and how to intercalate these 2 calendar systems together. Tesla asks, Zen, could you give your take on, is the new moon the dark moon or after the first visible crescent? My opinion is that the new moon, the time of Kadesh, is when the very thin sliver of the waxing crescent is for the first time visible and seen in the skies in the west shortly after the sun sets. About 50 minutes thereafter, you'll see it in the western skies above where the sun set. And I know that, others, like World's Last Chance, they determined by the dark moon. And from what I understand, my good friend Troy Miller also has come to determine that It is the dark moon, which is the time that determines the time of Kadesh uh, for his calendar system as well. Uh, the only reason I don't agree with the dark moon as the time of the new moon is because, as I read it here in the Chronicles of Jeremiah, and also with the Book of Enoch, even Philo speaks about, how he says that while at conjunction, when the moon is lost in sight under the sun, the side which faces earth is darkened. When the new month begins, it resumes its natural brightness. So he's telling us that when you can see the new moon as a waxing crescent, that this is when the beginning of the month is. Philo continues on this third point to speak of the sun beginning to illumine the moon with the light that we perceive, and the moon reveals her beauty to the eye. I do not believe the moon reflects the light of the sun. She has her own light, and it has her own properties. So, and so this was, somebody writing about what Philo believed, but I don't think he knows, because Philo was not a heliocentricist, in my opinion. All the ancient Israelites knew that we lived in a snow globe, that the firmament separated the waters above from the waters below. All right, we have arrived at the end already. And so don't forget to answer the question as to how the Book of Enoch was rediscovered, by who, and what year. And email me that. And the first two people that do, I'll send out books. Please do include your address with your answer. And I will reveal the winners in the very next show. But, okay. Oh, goodness, we're getting more questions now. Okay. Dayton asks, what do you think's going on when only you see part of the moon? Where is the other part? Well, that's very interesting, but the way that it is set up is that only one side, the face of the moon, faces the earth. And then, the scriptures describe these two clouds, causing it to lose its light and to gain its light over what is a month. And so that's just the way the Most High has it set up. All right, last question here. Question from earlier, Debbie Stoia. Did the pre-Adamic people have the breath of life? Yes, I do believe that all people have the breath of life in them and have had the breath of life in them, and all animals, in my opinion. Um, it, but again, Adam was the father and the ancestor of modern humanity. We see his body was created from the dust, but his spirit was blown into that body. That spirit is the nefesh. It is the Holy Spirit which lives within us. That is the immortal aspect of who we are. That's the part of us that lived before we entered into the womb of our mother and were fused with our physical bodies and then born into the world. We just did a whole show on pre-existence. And the Hall of Guff, predestination, all that you can find in a show that we did a couple weeks back. Okay, Dale says check out the Nephilim Look Like Clowns playlist by Understanding Conspiracy. I'll do that. I appreciate that, Dale, and thank all of you again for coming in, tuning in, asking your incredible questions, sharing fellowship and dialogue with each other and one another. I'm so honored to be part of this group. And I thank all of you again for supporting us, reaching out to us. Um, bless you, and may the Most High watch you, lead you, guide you in discernment, and protect us from all the weird and uncertain things that are coming. Be blessed all. And we'll be back on Saturday. We'll see you for the Digital Readers Club. Yes, but right, Tammy asks, are you rolling questions over to the next show? Yes, but we did catch up with and cover all the questions. So if you do have any questions you would like to ask me, go ahead and email them to me, and then I'll just create a list and, I'll add them for the next show, and we'll start that way. I appreciate all of you.
Censorship and regulation is becoming an
Thank you, everybody, for joining us for this video. Thank you for your patronage. Please do like and subscribe and share with your friends. God bless all of you in your seeking.